What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a film that was released not too long ago that I'd heard about on its initial release, but really didn't gravitate towards watching it because of the immense amount of negative reviews pouring out for it. This movie, as soon as it was released, I feel like everything I've read about this has just been hatred on hatred on hatred. And the reason why I finally jumped on and watched this is because it received 13 Oscar nominations, which is some of the most of any film ever nominated for Academy Awards. And so it's fascinating to me because I've said this before on my YouTube channel multiple times. I have virtually no respect for the Academy anymore. I feel like between their voters not caring about what they're actually watching, with some recent articles that have been released, it seems to sort of just be this glorification of specific people. It doesn't really seem to be about a passion and love for the medium anymore. It really doesn't. And so I don't care about the Academy Awards when they're given. It's very much just a popularity contest, but I find it interesting. It's very interesting that this is the representation nationally of this medium that so much of us love. And so because of that, I had to jump on board and watch this immediately and find out, is this really as terrible as a lot of people are saying that it is? And so today I'm going to be discussing Emilia Pérez with you. Emilia Pérez is directed by Jacques Audiard. Rita, an underrated lawyer working for a large law firm, more interested in getting criminals out of jail than bringing them to justice, is hired by the leader of a criminal organization. So, like I said, I went into this with curious as to what this was going to be like. All I knew was that it was a musical with a trans character involved. And I say this in the most non-hyperbolic way possible. This is, in fact, one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. And on top of that, it's one of the most embarrassing movies that I've ever seen in my entire life. And I'm going to talk about the movie as a whole, but I want to address this up front. We are living through some incredibly challenging times right now, especially in the United States of America, where marginalized groups are fearing for their lives because of legislation that is being threatened to be passed, executive orders that are being signed. And so making art about marginalized groups, including the trans community, people of color, immigrants, just it's going to be the most important that it's ever been to open people's eyes up. This movie feels borderline parody. It feels like satire. It feels like people that are not genuinely concerned with the struggles of the trans community, with struggles of these specific people from this part of the country. It seems like it was written by someone who has zero exposure to any of it. And that's what infuriated me so much about this movie, is it's incredibly insensitive. It doesn't feel like it genuinely cares about any of the subject matter that it discusses. And I'm going to break that down as I talk about the movie as a whole for you today. So the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Rita, played by Zoe Saldaña, who is a lawyer, and she's under-recognized for her work. She seems to do a lot of the things behind the scenes. She's not really at the forefront. And we see her going through a criminal case at the beginning of the movie, and she ends up winning. And she gets this mysterious phone call after she wins this case from someone who wants to meet her. And so she's like, okay, should I do this? Should I not do this? And she reluctantly decides, hey, I'll go do it. And when she goes to meet this person, she finds out that the client is Juan Manitas Del Monte, who is one of the biggest cartel leaders in this area that she lives. And she goes and has this conversation with him where he expresses his interest to do transitionary surgery because he said from a very young age, he's always felt like he identifies as a woman and wants to finally go through with this. He has 2 children and he's married, and he knows that this is going to impact his life. So he has Rita do all the research for him, set everything up, and get ready to kind of put his family in this safe house area for when he goes through this transitionary surgery. So she eventually sets it up, gets it done, and Manitas goes through the surgery, has it, and becomes Emilia Pérez, played by Karla Sofía Gascón. And after Emilia Pérez is born, we jump forward into the future, and it's all about her life afterwards. When her family comes back into her life, the way that her life is affected, the decisions that she makes, and just watching her character post-transition. So like I said, this movie is a laughable embarrassment. It's completely and totally stripped any sort of respect towards the Academy that I've ever had. I cannot believe that this received 13 Oscar nominations, and I'm gonna try to explain all the reasons why. For starters, the performances in this movie are not good. I'm sorry. Like, people were trying to say, oh, Zoe Saldaña, she's doing her best. Selena Gomez gives one of the most laughable, horrible performances I've ever seen in a movie. She does not feel like she belongs. And it's because this movie all amounts to nothing at the end of the day. Like, its messaging, everything about the movie, it amounts to so little. So the performances, it's just like, even when there's these supposed immense dramatic moments, they amount to nothing because the film is building to nothing, which is why it's so inconsequential. The musical numbers in this are so bad. It feels like a person who has never written any sort of musical number in their lives. There's the viral video going around when Zoe Saldaña's character goes to the center that she's looking into getting Manitas, the transitionary surgery, and it's like truly the most head-scratchingly, laughably bad music I've ever seen in my life. And the choreography and just the dull lighting and the cinematographical choices during the musical numbers make it so hard to watch, because from the very first frame, you're kind of thrust into this story and there is no character building. Like, the character building comes from a lot of the cliches and stereotypes around these types of stories. So when you're watching a movie that's so dull and flat cinematographically, and that the editing is, there's some editing decisions in this movie, as someone who went to film school and who studied editing and understands editing, there are some truly baffling cuts in this movie that I was just watching like, what in the hell was going through these people's minds while they were working on this film? And what really bugs me about this, and you can read these articles online, the director made it very apparent throughout interviews that he did not care about researching the culture of these people. He didn't do research about, gender affirming care, didn't research enough about the trans experience. And that really goes to show in this movie when, like, Emilia Pérez's character is hugged by someone and they say that she smells like a man. Like, just things of that nature, where there clearly is no attentiveness to caring about this character as a whole. And what I find so interesting about the movie is that Emilia Pérez as a character, when we're watching stories about transitioning, when you transition, you lived one life and you want your life to be yours. You're grabbing a hold onto your life and you're being the person who you've always wanted to be. But so much of this movie is solely concerned with Emilia Pérez's past. That's it. It's like stuck in the past. It's constantly referential to the past. And what's so interesting about it is, like, and this is why I say it feels almost like parody, is like, he was this insane cartel leader who made all this immense amounts of money, and after transitioning it becomes, I want to do more for the goodwill of the people, and it just feels like it comes out of nowhere. It really does. Like, I'm watching it and saying, okay, this person chose to be in this life. They did this for so long, and now solely because of the transition, they're like, oh, well, now it's time for me to try to do goodwill towards these people that I've harmed over the years. And like, I can sort of see where they're trying to go for, like, the shift in the life and the positivity and the acceptance and all of those things, but it just doesn't work because it just all feels like it's so under-researched and poorly executed and just infuriating, honestly. As I was watching the movie and we were just building towards the third act, it felt like it needed to end 20 times before it actually ended. But aside from that, I'm just laughing at the horrible music and just the poor vocal performances and just the baffling cinematographical choices. And it's simply just not a good movie. There's nothing you're going to take away from this other than, I spent 2 hours and 10 minutes of my life where I could have been doing something completely and totally different. And I have no idea whatsoever why the Academy chose this movie, other than, like, you see it and you're like, look, it's diversity. But as I said at the beginning of the review, marginalized groups of people need representation more than they ever have. And we got a movie this year like I Saw the TV Glow, which is one of the most beautiful representations of the trans experience and trans identity, and, the repression of wanting to embrace your true self. And I watch a movie like that is so fully realized and unbelievable and beautiful. And then I watch something like this where it feels so incredibly tone deaf. And then to realize that the director openly didn't care enough to research the culture. He's a French man. He did not care about researching this culture. He said, I knew everything that I needed to know. And I think that really shows in the end product. This felt like it was done by a cis man. It really 100% at the end of the day, it just bleeds that. It doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel like the trans voices in this movie really got a voice towards the end product of the film anyway. And yeah, I would skip this movie at all costs. I only suffered through it because I was curious, and I really wish I wouldn't have. So have you seen Emilia Pérez? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. Easily one of the worst, if not the worst, films from 2024 that I watched. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.